Joining us for this segment is a gentleman who, you know him for his role in law enforcement here in the county, Plymouth County, but he's also a historian, and I like having a conversation with him on an annual basis. I want to say it was something that happened about 3, maybe 4 years ago by happenstance, where he's like, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Independence Day. And I go, July 4th? He goes, no, Independence Day. And so we have had a little bit of a history lesson, civics, to talk a little bit about the difference between the 4th of July, the holiday and Independence Day. We have Plymouth County Sheriff Joe McDonald joining us. Sheriff, thank you for yet again joining me for another history lesson about Independence Day.
Oh, Kevin, thank you for allowing me to come on and have the platform to remind people. Many people have heard us talk about this in the past and may remember, some obscure facts from their history class back when. But yeah, the 4th of July, and that's another thing that it's Independence Day. 4th of July is just a date. It's at Christmas time. I'm not going to say to you, happy 25th of December. I'm going to say Merry Christmas. And that's just me. But, Independence Day, to me, it's in the pantheon of holidays. I think it is our most important one as a nation. And I, civically speaking, it's important for us to think about it and to talk about it. It's 245 years ago, a long time. This nation has existed, and we have been through trials, tribulations, good times, bad times, and we have survived. And I know a lot of people that I speak to now are concerned about the divisions in politics and the challenges that we face as a nation. And the good news is, if you have studied history, you understand that we have seen times worse than this, and we have come through. So my faith is in this nation and in the people of this nation and in our leadership. And I'm happy to come on and share that.
So why do we mix the two up? Why are we so fixated on the 4th of July? Hey, it's the 4th of July holiday. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people may say it's just because, we get a day off and we have some fun and shoot off fireworks and have bonfires and things like that. And that's probably true. The backyard barbecue is a big popular thing. But, historically, what was going on in 1776, the Second Continental Congress meeting at Philadelphia on July 2nd, actually, and this is why most historians will tell you that Independence Day is actually the 2nd of July. The resolution, it was known as the Lee Resolution for Independence from Great Britain. Richard Henry Lee of Virginia put forward that proposal, and it was voted upon and ratified by Congress that we would declare our independence from Great Britain, no longer being colonies, but an independent nation, on July 2nd of 1776. So you asked the question, and people always do, when you see the document itself, it says very clearly on top, in Congress, July 4th. And the reason is that, several days, Thomas Jefferson actually wrote that document essentially by himself, but did get some editorial assistance from mostly from John Adams and from Benjamin Franklin. But that document is very largely Thomas Jefferson's creation. And they needed time to get a clean copy written up so that they could have something upon which to place their signatures. So July 2nd is the actual day, even though the document is dated July 4th. That's when that document was prepared. And most historians agree that it wasn't really signed, even by John Hancock, who was the president of that Second Continental Congress, and by many historians gauge the first president of the United States, John Hancock, wasn't really signed until August 2nd. And the British didn't find out about that resolution until about August 30th of that year, 1776. So it's interesting. Eventually, 56 delegates signed that. And again, the very first one was John Hancock placing his, and we use this colloquial expression now, placed his John Hancock right in the middle of the signature part there, and that signature is very famous. People can identify that. So it's a wonderful thing for us to remember and to commemorate. And my suggestion to the folks out there is this: don't simply celebrate the 4th of July, celebrate the 2nd of July, because that's a great thing too. Let's have a barbecue.
Interesting enough is that this time of year, whether it's the 2nd of July, 4th of July, a lot of historical facts have taken place. And you and I have shared those and talked about, things that have occurred around this date.
Yeah, it's great. If people are insisting, as I've said in the past on many occasions, people will say to me, "Hey, happy 4th of July to you." And my response is always, "And happy Independence Day to you." 4th of July is simply a date. But I do, before we talk about some of those other things, I do want to read an excerpt from a letter. Now, it was very famous that John Adams and Abigail Adams exchanged letters during the period of time that John Adams was away. And Abigail Adams was absolutely brilliant. If you ever had an opportunity, I do know that there is a collection of their letters. It's called Dearest Friend. It's published as a book. If you ever get a chance, grab a copy of that. But here is what John Adams wrote to in a letter to Abigail on July 3rd of 1776. And I think it captures the spirit of this very, very well. And it reads as follows: "The 2nd day of July, 1776, will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. I am apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be commemorated as the day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore." I couldn't say it any better myself, and I think that really captures the spirit of what our Independence Day is all about, and I think it really captures or describes very accurately 245 years ago how we celebrate today, which is a wonderful thing. You also mentioned, there are those folks who are going, no matter what we say, they're going to say Happy 4th of July. And 4th of July is, if you insist on celebrating the 4th, there is reason, independent of our independence, to celebrate the 4th of July. Not just the birth of this nation, but the rebirth of the saving of the nation. July 4th, fast forwarding to 1863, Abraham Lincoln had a good July 4th weekend, I suggest, in that period of time, because two major things had happened. The first was the Union victory at Gettysburg. Gettysburg was July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of 1863, and the Southern invasion of the North by Robert E. Lee was repulsed and defeated by General Meade in the North. And even more significantly than that was July 4th of 1863 was the surrender, the capitulation of Vicksburg, Mississippi the Confederate general was Pemberton, and this was Ulysses Grant, who would later rise to overall command of the Union armies. But that is generally regarded, and I think is truly the turning point of the American Civil War. It split the Confederacy in half and saved this nation. So 1863.
Do you feel that that our society today realizes what it took for us to gain our freedom and for us to, realize the importance of an Independence Day?
Kevin, I don't think so. I really don't think so. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to remind our listeners out there and our viewers out there that what our founding fathers, in particular the signatories on the Declaration of Independence, were doing was not simply founding a nation. They were committing an act of treason. They were essentially signing their own death warrant if we had lost the revolution and they were captured by British forces. They most likely would have been put to death as traitors. So by signing that document, they not only founded a nation, but in doing so risks they risked their lives and really everything that they had. So my debt of gratitude to them is immeasurable. I like to think not just on the 4th of July or even the 2nd of July, but I think about the sacrifices of those that came before us, and that allows us to sit here and talk the way that we are. And I couldn't be more grateful.
I myself find history fascinating and all the little nuggets and things that are interconnecting somehow.
Yeah.
What makes you such a fan, a lover of history?
Oh, Kevin, ever since I was a kid, traveling with my parents to various historical sites, being a kid during the bicentennial, and realizing, how perilously close we came to not being a nation, to being a part of the British Commonwealth, really, sparked my interest. The history teachers I had growing up were all, by and large, outstanding, very good teachers. And I've learned, and I've since, when I have time, taught at Quincy College here. I've taught history and loved it. I think the best story is the true story. And think about all the movies that have been made, and some of them stray a little bit from the history, but generally speaking, those are the best topics that we have. And there's so much irony in history, and so many strange and coincidental things that have happened. We talked a little bit too about people today. We lament the fact that we're very divided politically as a nation, and there seems to be a lot of acrimony. And this is not anything new. People that study history, as I say, have a faith that we'll get through this. This too shall pass. And they talk about, and I know you and I have talked about it in the past, about the friendship that later crumbled between those two individuals largely responsible for the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. And that's an interesting story as well.
If you will, please remind folks who don't remember our past conversations.
Sure.
Please enlighten them.
Yeah. Well, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. Jefferson was a Virginian; he was a Southerner, and Adams was, from Braintree. He was a Massachusetts guy. He was a Northerner. They had some different opinions on how a federal government should exist and coexist with the states. Adams was a strong proponent of a strong centralized federal government, and Jefferson was more of a states' rights guy who thought that the federal government should exist, but should largely defer many things to the states. You also had a situation that arose, and the two were friends and colleagues in the founding. I mean, there's no two way about that. There was a great deal of affection, but that became very strained, and actually the friendship was broken for a period of time. Adams being our second president, and Thomas Jefferson, the way the vice presidents were selected at that time was different. So Jefferson served as Adams' vice president, and he was really horrified by the way that Adams exercised power. And those two, their friendship was broken for a period of time until 1812, when New Year's of 1812, when Adams reached out to Jefferson, and both had contacted third parties saying they wanted to be friendly again. But the ultimate irony here is that their friendship was renewed through correspondence. And fast forwarding 50 years later, 1826, on July 4th of all dates, both Thomas Jefferson and John Adams die. And what was really amazing about this, they died as friends, which is amazing and wonderful. But Adams' final words, and this is recorded by many individuals, Adams' final words as he passed away were, "Jefferson survives." And what Adams could not have known is that Jefferson died about 5 or 6 hours prior to him down in Virginia. So two men, founding fathers, friends, then opponents, and then friends again, die the same day, 50 years to the day of the Declaration of Independence. It's amazing stuff.
It's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah. And to me, Jefferson survives. I think what Adams, he was older. Adams, he was 90 when he died. Jefferson was 82, I believe. So I think he had an expectation that Jefferson would outlive him. But I think really the significance to me that Jefferson survives means that Jefferson, in the document that was created, the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson survives, and Jefferson and Adams will continue to survive, embodied in the documents that they and others created to found this nation. Isn't that a wonderful thing?
I have to say, knowing that Jefferson was, and again, I'm just sharing, a little history nugget. When I was down in D.C. Just a month ago, and we went by, and the person who was taking us through the different, historical places and the monument or the what they have in honor of Jefferson, it's amazing that it was something that has, knowing that he was, the author and helped, put together the Declaration of Independence, you would have thought that something that would be the likeness of him would be better taken care of, and it would be more of a higher priority, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm troubled somewhat by the treatment that some of these historical sites receive or don't receive. We really, I used to tell my history students that everything that's going to happen has already happened. And what I meant by that was, if you know history, you can oftentimes predict how events will unfold and prepare much better for those things. So it behooves us. It breaks my heart when I see any of these monuments destroyed anywhere, regardless of to whom they are erected. Each one of them reflects the values and the mores of the time in which it was erected, and we can learn from all of those things. And we need to remember those things, good and bad. We need to remember these things. And those people, my grandfather used to say to me that a smart person will learn from his mistakes, but a really smart person will learn from other people's mistakes. And I think it's up to us to learn from the mistakes of the past so we don't make those in the future.
Sheriff, we've come to the closing moments of our conversation here. Any further wisdom that you want to impart on our audience before we say goodbye for at least this particular segment?
Oh, I appreciate that, Kevin. I don't know how much wisdom I have to impart, but I do want to take a moment to thank you for, keeping this alive and giving me the platform and sharing that platform with me as a student of history. And I would say that we're both students of history. To the extent that I retain some of what I read, I'm lucky that way. But I do love to talk about it. And usually people, some of whom I'm sure are just being polite, usually seem interested in some of the things that I have to say. So I appreciate it.
Well, and we thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You got it. He is Plymouth County Sheriff Joe McDonald, as we share a historical nugget about Independence Day, which some of you call 4th of July.